Stop what you're doing, because the $85 million narrative just fell apart on live TV. Carroll's team bragged about an $83 million jackpot, 9% tacked on, saying, "We can start collecting right now." But tonight, the judge rejects the $85 million demand, and Trump moves to flip the table, power shifting fast. The spin is exposed. The cash grab cover-up cracks, and the media meltdown begins. If he posts bond, it's a pause. If not, they rush the vault. Chaos either way. Who falls? Who walks out? Is this justice or betrayal of democracy dressed up as truth? Watch what happens when the math meets the law and the narrative collapses.
So I thought to myself, like, okay, that's just going to give us more money, honestly.
You got awarded over $83 million from this jury. Trump's obviously appealing. He has the right to do that. Big question over the next couple of weeks, is he going to get a bond for that $83 million? If he doesn't, when could your client see that money or some of it?
So he has two choices. He either has to post a bond, it's called an appellate bond, which requires him to put down 20%, or he has to deposit, which is what he did for the first verdict, the entire amount with the court. So 83 plus 9%, so call it $89 million. If he can't do either of those, then we can start collecting right now, and we will, for sure.
Let me say it plain. When courts turn into campaign stages and 8-figure verdicts become political trophies, the justice system stops being blind and starts picking sides. Tonight, we're pulling the mask off the media narrative around Jean Carroll's case and the message it sends to every American who still believes in due process and free speech.
Please state your name and spell it for the jury, for the court. And there he was, and he was nothing. He was just no power. He was zero. I was flabbergasted. And from then we just sailed through. She brought me in. She said, "Say your name." And I just looked at Robbie, saw he was nothing, and it came out from there.
Did you make eye contact with him?
Many times.
And what was that like?
He's an emperor without clothes.
Here's the headline they're pushing. An appeals court ruled in favor of Carroll and against President Trump's immunity claim. That's the news bite. But the bigger story isn't a legal technicality. It's how this case has been packaged as a political battering ram, with the media cheering the size of the check instead of asking whether speech, procedure, and basic fairness got steamrolled on the way to that number.
All right, breaking news for you now. An appeals court has just ruled in favor of Jean Carroll in her $83 million defamation lawsuit against President Trump. The court ruled against the president's attempt to throw the case out entirely. He had argued that he deserved presidential immunity given the timing of the original verdict, which you recall happened back in January of 2024.
Let's set the table. A New York jury in a defamation action about words delivered more than $83 million in damages, including $65 million in punitive damages. That's not accountability. That's a message. And the message is simple. Say something the New York elite don't like about a politically connected accuser, and you'll be punished far beyond any rational measure. Meanwhile, violent criminals walk, and regular taxpayers can't get basic justice in city courts. Now listen to how the plaintiff herself frames the courtroom. Not as a neutral forum, but as a political stage. Her words, not mine. She says it flat out. The courtroom for him was a campaign stop, and that he's using me to win voters. That's the tell. If both sides view the courtroom as a political arena, you no longer have justice. You have lawfare.
It is a paradox. For him, the courtroom was not a courtroom to him. It was a campaign stop. That was clear. So we had two different objectives. Ours was to win a case. His was to win voters. We'll see how that plays out, that he's using me to win voters. Sexual assault. A man found liable for sexual assault is using the woman he sexually assaulted.
And then there's the money talk, right out in the open. We're not speculating, we're quoting. There's a detailed discussion about bonds, interest, and how quickly they can start collecting. Ask yourself, Is this about truth and healing, or about extracting maximum pain from the frontrunner they couldn't beat at the ballot box?
Either has to post a bond, what's called an appellate bond, which requires him to put down 20%, or he has to deposit, which is what he did for the first verdict, the entire amount with the court. So 83 plus 9%, so call it $89 million. If he can't do either of those, then we can start collecting right now, and we will, for sure.
Then comes the kicker. What to do with the money? Again, on tape. We're going to do good with that money. Talk of activism, even a half joke about Trump Tower. The point isn't the joke, it's the posture. This isn't we proved a point and we're moving on. This is we captured an $83 million war chest and we'll aim it right back into politics. That's not justice. That's a redistribution of political power via courtroom.
To get votes.
You may soon, though, have quite a bit of his money, and I wonder how you plan to use that.
Oh, it's inspiring. We talk about it a lot. We're going to do good with that money. We're going to do, Mary Trump has suggested we turn Trump Tower into an animal sanctuary, for instance. A joke. That was a joke, Poppy. No, but we're inspired to do not waste a penny of this. And we have some good ideas that we're working on.
Specifically aimed at
Well,
what would oppose Trump?
Well, Donald Trump hates women. Remember the New York Magazine, the famous quote when they said, Donald, what do you think of women? He said, women, they're not worth a piece of crap. Remember that quote? And so I think one of the things we could do, seeing as how he's very instrumental in taking away women's rights over their bodies across the United States.
Now, let's talk fairness, because Americans know what a real trial looks like when both sides get to fight. Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, says defenses were shut down, no ability to raise key arguments to the jury, no DNA, experts denied. If that's even half right, you don't have a contest. You have a procession, and a procession always ends at the number the powerful want.
Before I walked into court, that judge decided that every single defense President Trump had, we were not allowed to raise in front of the jury. It is in writing, and I encourage the journalists, the real journalists, to take the minute to look at his orders. There was no proof. And I couldn't prove that she didn't bring in the dress. There was no DNA. There was no expert. My experts were denied. Two of them were denied to come in.
Immediately after, the plaintiff's lawyer fires back that it's entirely made up. That's the point. In a normal arena, evidence battles are fought in the open, and the press walks audiences through the rulings. Here, corporate media just pits aside and shouts pay up. When half the country thinks the deck is stacked, we don't get unity. We get distrust and a justice system nobody believes in.
Your response, Robbie, and then you, E.G. Maybe you go first, because you weren't next to her. You couldn't respond in that moment. Would you like to respond now?
Alina Habba is gloriously talented. She's very skilled. She has ludicrous confidence. And when you hear her speak, we understand that most of what she just said was entirely made up, entirely untrue.
Let me be crystal clear. Defamation law protects reputations, yes, but it also protects speech, especially political speech. When a New York jury can put a $65 million punitive price tag on a politician's denial, speech tied to public debate, you're not just punishing a man, you're chilling every supporter, every surrogate, every journalist who might question an accusation. That's the play. They don't need to jail you if they can bankrupt you for speaking. And the pressure campaign doesn't end with a verdict. We've already heard the suggestion. If he talks, he pays more. That's not accountability. That's a muzzle. Be silent or we'll file another case. That is the textbook definition of lawfare. Use the process as the punishment and the threat as the gag.
There's a very real reason why that individual will not be talking about this ever again.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly being told not to talk about it, and he's concerned that if he keeps talking about it, he's going to have to pay even more money than he's already been ordered to pay.
Valid concern.
Right, but as the judge noted in the middle of the trial, at times he can't control himself. I mean, the judge said that to him, sir, you appear to be unable to control yourself. And if that part of him takes over, then he could say something again,
And you're willing to bring another defamation case?
Absolutely, everything's on the table.
E.G., often
Ask yourself what this means for your life, not Trump's, yours. If the ruling class can take a political enemy's words, strip out context, block core defenses, and then slap on an 8-figure punitive number, what won't they do to a non-billionaire who crosses the narrative? Small businesses crushed by online smears won't see justice like this. Parents targeted by school boards, journalists who get a fact wrong, they won't get the media halo or the courtroom carpet. The system flexes hard only in one direction, toward the people who threatened the regime. And it's not just the courthouse. The media applause line is always the same: historic accountability. But they never ask the obvious questions. Why are punitive damages designed to punish intentional malice being used like a political fine? Why is the venue always New York? Why do we keep hearing no DNA from the defense while the other side shrugs and says, irrelevant? Why do judges cage defenses and then act surprised when half the country thinks the verdict was pre-written? Here's the through line. The same establishment that tried to censor you online, that called border chaos compassion, that forced you to accept double standards for riots versus protests. That same establishment now wants courts to do what elections couldn't. The ballot box didn't deliver, so the briefcase will. You can hear it in the victory lap language: movement, every woman, restore rights. That's politics, not restitution. And when politics is the goal, the money becomes a war chest. This isn't healing, it's funding the next round.
And awarded you for that pain that you have endured, and then the defamation on top of it. What is your message to other women who are not believed, who don't have the platform you have?
Well, this is why this decision bodes well for women across. It came at a time when we needed that positive, "we believe you" statement.
Let's talk incentives. If you tell the country that a jury in one of the bluest jurisdictions can hand out punitive sums for speech in the heat of political combat, you create a bounty system. Find the right jurisdiction, pick the right judge, muzzle the defense, and the media will carry your water. That's not a conspiracy theory. Listen to the tape. Campaign language inside a courtroom, collection strategies on TV, plans for political spending with the proceeds. They're not hiding it. And yet, for all the chest thumping, something else is happening. Every time they weaponize another